Hey guys, how y'all doing today? Jeff here, OTDUDE. I want to talk about baby cameras, and I was in the market for one myself when before my newborn was born, basically, and I was deciding between basically Wi-Fi cameras and these basically non-Wi-Fi ones that basically work on the wireless band. If you're familiar with cordless phones, or if you've seen these before, they basically use similar technologies and just use radio waves, I believe. That's how they communicate and you receive a signal. I want to compare basically the pros and cons of Wi-Fi versus non-Wi-Fi. I'll just call them wireless baby monitors. And the main reason basically why I didn't go on, say, like Amazon and get a baby monitor that was Wi-Fi, especially a cheap one, like a cheaper, more affordable one, was basically because of privacy and security. For these cameras to work, by nature of me typing in the search string Wi-Fi, they need Wi-Fi to work. And that means basically that the device, the camera in itself, has a wireless antenna and a board, and it can connect to your Wi-Fi network, like your router. And then basically from there, it often connects to the internet, the cloud. Everything's on the cloud today, right? So it's considered an IoT, Internet of Things Connected Device. And then from there, if you have a smartphone, all you need is internet access, even like 5G. You connect to the app, which basically connects to the same server that the camera is connected to. And basically you can view a live stream, like literally anything, anywhere around the world. Say like my wife, if I had this device, I don't. With internet access, she can open the app that these devices provide and view, let's say, my baby. So that's one downside, is basically, since my wife can do it, if someone had the password to our account, they can view it as well, right? And if you heard about the Amazon hacks going on with their camera systems, Amazon, when I say Amazon, I think more of Ring, because they purchased the Ring cameras brand. That's why you see like Ring being advertised all the time on Amazon.com. Ring baby camera. And it's funny that their sponsored ads from third parties are actually bumped up and first before Amazon's own branded things, which is kind of funny, I think, because you have this competition of ads and selling your own devices these days. And I don't know, I just think it's funny that advertisement popped up before their own devices for Amazon, Anyways, I digress. You have these Ring stick-up cameras, and they're kind of cool. Connect to a Wi-Fi device network, and you drop them anywhere, just like the name suggests, stick-up camera. And what happened, I remember seeing or read about, is, I didn't watch the video, but basically some hackers, you don't even necessarily be a hacker, basically. If you have a way to get into someone's account, these people, strangers on the internet, talk to some kids, basically, because this has two-way talk over the internet. Kind of creepy, right? Without even parents maybe even knowing about it, versus a device like the one I got. It's not connected to the internet. Everything, I think personally, is hackable, but for someone to really go through that much to like get into our stream, the wireless stream for the camera to view my baby, first of all, they have to be like really close to, even within range of the camera. So basically like parked outside my house, maybe even. And I've walked outside with this baby monitor, the screen, before, and the range is pretty good, but like outside my street, it gets a little spotty. There's a lot of competing signals and stuff. So to me, I see that as a benefit, because personally, I wouldn't be that far from my kiddo anyways. Like, I wouldn't be like 2 blocks away and like monitoring, I think that's kind of irresponsible, but I want to be close enough. Like right now, I'm upstairs and my kid is downstairs, and they're kind of, I don't know how many feet, but I'm getting a good signal, even with all these other signals like Wi-Fi and 5G for like smartphones, radio waves these days, all competing for like basically some bandwidth. I'm getting a really good signal here, basically full bars almost 3 out of 5. But that's enough for me to get a good signal and see what's going on. Whereas with these devices, they're connected to the internet, and you never know. Like, if the way I see it, if like these Ring cameras got exploited, what's to say devices that you get even cheaper on Amazon? You may be tempted to get something much cheaper for like $40, for example, from getting hacked and stuff. It's all down to basically the software and the engineering, that goes into it. And I imagine, like, with other companies where they may not have as a high a profit margin, they're trying to cut costs. Their app might suck a little bit more. It might be like more buggier, and what's to say how secure their app is, because if it's connected to the cloud, to me, I think it's kind of like anything is fair game, in terms of hackers getting into it. And that's the other thing too, is when you sign up for these devices, I'm sure when you've created accounts before nowadays, right, you had to click and accept for the EULA end user license agreement or the privacy concerns. You check it off, like, who reads these things, right? But you might want to consider looking into it when you click accept and buy one of these products and seeing what you kind of give up in terms of privacy and security. Like, what do they have rights to? Because nowadays, with data, big data, it's very, very, sought after. It's probably valued more than some other things, I'd say. Like with Facebook, and Amazon, they're collecting your data, with these. It's kind of scary when you like put a Alexa in, or where they came out with this new robot that follows you around. It's collecting a lot of data around your personal habits and lives, just so that they can probably market more stuff to you and sell more stuff to you, right? So I'm not saying that the cameras themselves are, created to fulfill this purpose. They're first and foremost they're baby monitors, but you never know, like, if they're selling your data for a third party for some money or whatever, right? Especially with these cheapy, like, no-name ones. And so that's one concern, and the main reason why I didn't get one of these types of cameras. Let's talk about some more downsides. I think they're less convenient. Let's say I wanted to bring this camera system to, say, grandparents' house. If they didn't have a Wi-Fi, I mean, I know a lot of families who doesn't have Wi-Fi, right? But let's say they didn't. You wouldn't be able to deploy this kind of system because the camera wouldn't have anything to connect to. And even if they did have a Wi-Fi network, you have to go through the trouble of probably going into the app and going through the setup process all over again. And you probably don't even remember how you set it up, right? If you set it up months ago, you probably have to watch a YouTube video or something, and that takes time out every day. Whereas, and you can run into technical issues. Like, let's say the Wi-Fi signal is bad, or your grandparents or your friend that you're visiting, they don't remember the Wi-Fi password. You're kind of not able to use the device until you figure all this out, right? One thing that just thought about is I wonder if you're able to create an ad hoc Wi-Fi network, basically like a Wi-Fi hotspot with your phone, and make your camera, the Wi-Fi camera, connect to it. That might be possible, but that's probably not the first and foremost primary focus in the way that these devices are designed. So that's more of a workaround situation, and that'll probably drain your phone battery a lot too. So that's another limited use case scenario in terms of connecting it to the Wi-Fi and setup. Whereas with a device like this, you can basically all you need is electricity. So the one I have here is from UFI. They're a pretty good brand. They're from Anchor. You just basically plug it in. It just needs power for the camera side, and this monitor just needs to be charged. It's kind of like a phone. It has a micro USB plug. As long as it's charged, you can basically view your kid. You don't have to set it up. You just set it up once, and it saves it into, I don't know, its memory or its BIOS or firmware or whatever, and you can just deploy it anywhere without having to set up the whole thing all over again. And I'm sure you all know, if you already have your son or daughter already, when you have a kid screaming in your ear and stuff, or you're sleep deprived, you don't have time to deal with this more stress and workaround. So as an occupational therapist, I think function and meaningful living lives with less things to deal with, the better, right? The third thing I think is functionality. As an occupational therapist, I focus a lot on functionality and living your day-to-day lives, right? So with a device that is connected to your smartphone, it is cool being able to look at it. Let's say connected to the internet. Like I said earlier, my wife could drop in if I had one of these devices and view my baby. But having a dedicated device like all the time, like right now, like I'm filming this video, I have it on my desk and I can literally like look down and see what my baby's doing. Whereas with this, I'll have to open an app, maybe log in. Sometimes if I get logged out, that's time that's delayed, right? To like see what's going on with your kid when things could be crucial. Like what if they're like choking on something, for example, right? And I know, and as a smartphone user, like I'm sure y'all well aware, you do a lot of multitasking on it. Let's say you want to log into your bank account, you got to like look at a text message or like log into two-factor, or if you want to just like Google something, right? You're gonna have to task out and not have the primary monitor app in the foreground, And I think with Apple devices, they're a little bit more limited. You can't do like split screen, for example. So they're a little bit more locked down in functionality in terms of that compared to say Android, where you can have like split screen mode and always have the baby monitor on the top. But even then, I think it's limited because some apps don't support it. And when you jump into say like an unsupported app like a banking app, it'll take over the whole screen and you don't see the baby. It doesn't work as a baby monitor, so to speak, anymore. Now I know some apps have like audio in the background feature, right? So you can like listen to, just like you can with the traditional like wireless baby monitors, the audio feed all the time. Downside to that is like, let's say you want to watch YouTube video, for example, right? Then you will compete with that audio stream and won't be able to get that live audio from your baby monitor, right? Whereas with something like this, it has a separate speaker, it's always giving me a feed, and that's a benefit. Now I know a lot of you probably aren't looking for like live like video all the time or live audio all the time, as long as you get some sort of notification, right, of what's going on. Now I think that's really cool, being able to get like a notification. Like, and how these work is basically when you detect, let's say a sound meets a certain threshold, like your baby's crying, it'll like alert you. You get a text alert, or an app alert, and that's kind of cool. But if you ever like mess with like alerts in like security systems, for example, like motion detection or even audio detection, you'll know that you get a lot of false alarms. With the newer generations of, let's say, like the security systems, like the IP cameras, they're really, really cool. Like they really come a long way. They have like human detection, like facial detection. So they'll reject a lot of false alerts. Let's say like a bird flying through, the frame and being a motion alert, right? Versus now it has to be like a face or a vehicle, then it alerts you. I don't think a lot of these even more expensive Wi-Fi camera systems, I haven't looked into it recently, support those kinds of things. So if they do, that's really cool. Let me know in the comments which cameras do support that, because I think that's really cool. Let's say like motion detection for your kid, or audio detection of, let's say, crying only and not like just random noise like clapping or like people are talking in the background. If it rejects that, can only detect, say, crying. I think that's really cool. I think that's where these devices may have an edge over traditional devices, and may want me to get that over, say, a traditional one. But even then, I'd say privacy concerns, security, I'd still get these any day. It'd be cool if these devices added those kind of recognition, right? But anyways, notifications. I've looked at a lot of reviews and like YouTube on these devices, and these notifications don't always work. Sometimes they don't go through. Or let's say that the Wi-Fi goes down, or the device isn't connected to the Wi-Fi network. How would you know? Maybe the app alerts you, maybe not. Or what if the notifications are delayed, right? If you ever messed with like newer apps and stuff, you may have encountered apps that just don't get their notifications, or just things just stop working, right? And when it comes to babies, I think the less bells and whistles, the better. I just need it to work. I don't want to like fiddle with like diagnosing an app that's like crashing or something, or like having to update it first before I can open it. Like, like your banking apps these days, like I just want to see what's going on with my baby. And I understand, like, I'm all about updates and stuff and security, but that's a barrier to you viewing the stream of your kid. Whereas something like this, right out of the box, it's really solid. A lot of these streams, wireless streams, are encrypted, like two-way encrypted too. So it's pretty hard to hack unless you have these two devices. Everything is hackable, but it's harder to hack to these, so to speak. And less of an incentive to do it either, because basically, like I said, someone has to basically be like physically in my space to pick up on that signal. And if you looked in the past before, Wi-Fi isn't always that secure either. It's been hacked before. I'm not going to go into like the hacking side of things, but I think it's just more secure. So that's the notification side of things. And also running an app like this, the main app for these devices all the time probably will drain your battery, whereas something like this, it's a secondary device, and I know that if this dies, you can't view it, and if your phone dies, you can't view your stream. But given the two, I'd rather have this device go down and offline and then basically go to my room of where my kid is versus having my phone dead, And what's nice about these is they're really low energy drawing, and they last like many hours, and you can even turn down the brightness, turn off the screen, and just do audio only mode when the battery's almost dead, and it'll work just as well. I hope that helps comparing the two devices, types of devices, and the pros and cons of each. Let's talk about the downsides of this. Like I said, you need to be within range for it to work well. I think that's one limitation. Other than that, I don't think there's really too much I had to complain about a device like this. Like, I know it just works. I turn it on, I'm always able to view my kid. And I like that it has a kickstand. You can just set it down on the table. Has a speaker, its own dedicated speaker, a nice big screen that you can like turn off. Like here, I just toggled it off and it's still like giving me an audio stream, right? And if you're looking for a camera like this, you want to definitely look for one that can support additional cameras to future-proof it. Now, if you only want one camera, then that's fine. But like for me, I don't know, in the future, I may want to add a secondary camera, let's say like in the playroom, and then have another one in the nursery that when if I had like two kids in two different places, a device like this can do the job. And if you're looking for the Wi-Fi smart app route, make sure they can do this as well. And another thing I don't like about these kind of smart app things and Wi-Fi is like they kind of have a pay as you go model or a subscription model sometimes, or they paywall, lock a lot of features behind a paywall, and that kind of sucks. Like say like to view a certain amount of footage, like live, you may have to pay. Like I think that's kind of like predatory. Like when you're buying such an expensive device already, you should just get access to all of its features. But I get it, they're running a cloud, they have to support the app and its security, and that's development. Whereas something like this, it just works out of the box. It doesn't need like ongoing software upgrades or like BIOS updates, or firmware updates, like, right? It just works. And that's the other thing with like these smart apps. It's like when they need updates, you can't like view it right away. You have to update it, and then sometimes it logs you out. You have to sign back in. You're like, oh shoot, what's my password? So tips for using a device, I'll go over. If you wanted to go the Wi-Fi route, get one of these Wi-Fi monitors. One, have a strong Wi-Fi password. That's not easy to guess. I know it's easier to guess password, but it's better to have a stronger one. It's convenience versus security, right? And safety. So have a really strong and solid Wi-Fi password for your network, especially your home network. Two is I would consider creating a guest network and connecting it to that, your monitor to that, not having it on your main network. Because let's say if your Wi-Fi baby camera got compromised somehow, it could be a way to get into your main network and like go onto your smartphones and your desktop computers and your tablets and something like that. If I were to get a device like this, I would isolate it on its own network. If you know how to deploy like isolated networks and VLANs, even better to you, I would definitely put it on its own camera VLAN. But for most of you guys, most consumers, having a Wi-Fi network with its own guest network and connecting this device to the guest network will work. And it will work basically because it just needs to be connected to the internet. Your phone doesn't necessarily need to see this the camera and talk to each other directly, because they basically connect to each other. It uploads the stream to the cloud first, through the internet, and then as long as your phone, you can be connected to 5G, you can view that stream. So security for strong password, and have it. Second is I would have a really strong and random character password for the login account for the main app. So let's say like it's a Nest device or something. For my Nest account that I used to create and log in for the camera, I would have a really strong password as well. And I'm a big advocate of having password managers in storing. See, my kiddo He's starting to wake up. I heard a little bit of let's see if it's just a stir or he's still awake. See, so that's nice, right? Like it's always on. I'm hearing the stream versus my phone. I could be doing other stuff, like working right now, like filming a YouTube video, and I have access to that camera without worrying about, is it working? Is it Wi-Fi down? So going back to my point, have a really strong password. Just get a Wi-Fi manager, secure. I'm sorry, I keep saying Wi-Fi. Password manager and storing that password there. I know it's less convenient. Let's say if you wanted to share with your family to have them log into the stream, you can be like, okay, the password is ABC123. It's actually 20 characters long, but I would have it treated like a banking password because you don't want it to be easily guessed and brute forced by, let's say, like hackers and being able to view your stream. So I gotta head out now. My baby is starting to wake up a little bit more thanks to this baby monitor. Couldn't have been any more good timing and example of how cool and functional these devices are. But I think I had a third point to make if I were to use the Wi-Fi camera route, is to basically update the apps. Basically, sometimes you have the option of not updating your apps. I know on Android you could turn off the Play Store from updating it, but lately I've just turned on the update all my apps, and I think that's really important these days, is to basically update the operating systems, whether you're on Android, iOS, or something else. Keep your operating system updated and then the apps updated on top of that, because hackers are getting more sophisticated. There are more and more bots. Computing and just microchip technology is advanced so far where, we're coming up to, if you're into like cryptocurrency, and like things getting hacked these days, like things are getting much more sophisticated, and for me personally, I would take those options, go that route, if I were to have a Wi-Fi security camera for my kid. Strong password, updated apps, and that's all you can really do. Third is to go with a really well-known name brand, that's trusted, and look at the reviews and see what people's complaints are with it. Like, does the app suck? Like, is it really sluggish? Was it like programmed like it was for 1995? Is it like not user-friendly? Is it not cross-platform, right? Like, let's say it only works on iOS but not Android, or vice versa, right? You don't want to deal with those kind of issues when you get the device and you're having a lot more stress and having to deal with other things, because it might, with like assistive technology, it's basically a source of assistive technology. All my OTP friends out there, right? High tech isn't always better, and even when comparing high tech devices, more sophisticated isn't always better, right? It's always better to say go for a bell than go for like a security alarm system, whereas the bell is more like user friendly. People understand it better. It's better to adopt, and when it's more user friendly, easier to adopt, and more functional, you're more likely to use it and get more like functionality out of it, versus like a really sophisticated piece of technology that you don't understand, or it's like really hard to use, or you have to keep up with, and you're less inclined to use it. And with the baby monitor, I think it's kind of like a device that you need to be able to depend on, and when you need it, without having delays or like technical issues that you don't really have time to like figure out and like diagnose. It's not like other things. I personally wouldn't want to. I have other things to do, right? So I don't want to deal with figuring out like why my app isn't working, or why am I logged out, or what's the password, or why is it so laggy, or like why does it drop out, or why am I not getting notifications. Whereas with a device like this, it's always going to work as long as you're within range and it has battery power, and that's it. So hope that helps. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think, what you prefer, and if you went the Wi-Fi route, why, what specific brand you like, and what you don't like, and if you tried one of these, so say dumber wireless cameras, why you didn't like using that. I will say that the price, you're not going to save a lot more with these days. If you look on like even like the one I bought, it's like $150, so it's not cheap either. But I get peace of mind knowing that it works, And with Wi-Fi cameras, you can definitely go up in price really easily as well. You can go from like $150, $200, $300 even for a Wi-Fi like camera. That's like crazy to me. Like $299, and this isn't even very like movable. It's like stuck towards where you put it down, like baby over the baby crib, for example. But of course, I get it. These do a lot more. They have like wake detection, baby detection when they move around. Some of them even monitor like vitals, like if for your baby's like SpO2 breathing rate went down, for example. It can do a lot more, but with that comes, more, first of all, how reliable and how accurate, are these data points? Is it giving you a lot of false alarms, right? Because when I looked into these devices, I was like, this is really cool, as a medical professional, like I think it's cool to like look at like oxygen readings or like look at, like a log or history of like movement. But what if these things aren't even that accurate, right? It's just like nonsensical like data points that are just gonna drive you crazy. You're just gonna turn it off anyways. Then you're just paying a premium for features that you aren't really using. And I think these devices will get better, of course, right? With ongoing development, they'll get more accurate, more user-friendly, and it's going to be really comes down to what you prefer, because I don't think price points will be the major factor. It's just what you value more. And for this, I'd say security, or this one is more convenience and bells and whistles, but yeah, to each their own, right? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one, and hope you all have a really good day.